I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Byron watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today I hope some of you recognize the quote that is the title, that the lack of transparency is a huge political advantage, and that those are words spoken from the Obamacare architect, Jonathan Gruber, and basically them not being honest with the American people about what the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, does or did was the key to getting it passed. And so I thought that this was important to mention today because the key to having Kamala Harris be the president is obviously the lack of transparency about her policies, what she stood for in the past, her record as a senator, a clear understanding of her record when she was, in California politics, and etc. And so even, now what she's done or is doing as the vice president, it's all like about the vibes and the feels and all that good stuff. So they've been covering for her. She's come out with a couple of policies that are like financial and really ridiculous, but there's other ones, of course, that I'm sure she still supports. But I want to show you this interview from Tom Cotton, who talked to an ABC journalist. I can't believe that these people are hosting a debate. They're so in the tank, but they're all in the tank for Kamala Harris. And everyone's in on the gag. Everyone is in on the gag. And that's one of the reasons why her being president is so dangerous. And so that leads to another point of frustration. On Friday, I talked a lot about being frustrated with Donald Trump and something he had tweeted about protecting reproductive freedom, which is the language of the left about abortion and stuff. And JD Vance was doing shows over the weekend, and he said that Donald Trump would veto like any kind of federal ban and stuff. So there's lots of conversations about. I'm going to try not to talk about it as long as I talked about it on Friday, but we definitely wanted to get to this Kamala Harris stuff first. Also, they're trying to change the debate stuff, man. Her team wants to change the debate rules after insisting that they stick with what Biden negotiated with Trump. So the Trump campaign said, okay, and now they're trying to change different stuff. So we'll talk about those changes, why she wants to make those changes and so on. I don't know if they're going to come to an agreement or whatever, but I would assume she doesn't want to necessarily debate Donald Trump. And if she does want to debate Donald Trump, I don't think she wants any opportunity to be unscripted in front of the American people prior to them turning in their ballots, which is going to start happening very soon. But if she has to, she definitely wants to make sure that she has every advantage possible, just like Joe Biden wanted every advantage possible, but it didn't turn out well for him. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. One article that I dropped today is a article about Kamala Harris and why I'm not proud of the fact that she is, going to be the first woman president, or she's the first female vice president or whatever. I'm not proud of that accomplishment for her because I knew she wouldn't do a good job. And she's the way that she got to this position is unprecedented, really messed up. So on top of me being pretty darn positive that she's not going to do a good job, she's also she hasn't earned it. She's just totally unworthy of the position. So I lay it out, and I recommend that you guys go check out the article and share it, learn some of those, talking points that I use. I've got links and so on in there, so you guys can see some stuff for yourself. So that's an article I just dropped today. So go ahead and share it. You guys can support at the website, blacktnews.com/donate. It does cost a stream, run my website, all that good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. You guys can also give stars on Facebook. You guys can send super chats on YouTube. We'll read the super chats as long as they aren't like psychotic or something. I'll go ahead and read those. Thank you to those of you who are watching this live and to those of you who watch it back later. Just FYI, if you're like, why does her hair keep like softly blowing? Because I got a fan right there. I am so sorry if you can hear it, but it is so hot right now. It's so hot right now. So I got the fan has come back. I got the fan on. I'm so sorry. And I'm still sweating. So we'll get through this together. So but maybe just enjoy the majestic of the hair tussle. Anyway, let's hop into it. So right off the bat, I just want to go ahead and take you down memory lane with Obamacare and this line that is the title about the lack of transparency being a huge political advantage for Democrats. And so this is a common theme. We have to pass a bill to find out what's in it. I think that was like Nancy Pelosi who said that. And so Kamala Harris's presidency right now is, well, we have to elect her to know what she'll do. And everybody knows what she'll do, but there's some people out there who don't know. I've seen so many videos like on TikTok of people doing man on the street videos. And not just like man on the street videos, like out in the wild, like in the streets. There's people who went to the DNC and asked people like, what's your favorite Kamala Harris policy? And people can't name anything. And they're like, being president is my favorite thing. Being a woman is my favorite thing. Or, well, that's hard. I can't think of anything. And a mutual friend of mine on TikTok, he did a live where he's just had like, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? And I watched her for a while, and I watched her for a while the other day, and nobody had good reasons. Basically a lot of people had misconceptions about things that Trump wanted to do. And so he would break stuff down. And so some people are like, well, Trump is like really immoral because he's a felon, and because of the G.E. Carroll lawsuit or whatever. So he break those things down. And then he's like, well, if you think Trump's a bad person, I'm not going to really argue with you about that. But let me lay out these particular facts about these misconceptions that you have. And then he started going through Kamala Harris's record in California and how she ran one of the most, corrupt departments in the country. And he said he was from, actually, he lives in Florida now, but he was from California and at the time. And so when she was in office, so he remembers a lot of these things, and some things you can find, some things are sealed, but he's like, she's super corrupt. She's super corrupt and immoral. I think what she did with some of her cases were evil, holding in people longer than they should have been. And he didn't mention David Daleiden, but David Daleiden was a pro-life activist who exposed Planned Parenthood for selling baby body parts, which you're not supposed to do. And she went after him, raided his home and took his stuff, and went after him instead of going after Planned Parenthood. But, Planned Parenthood, they fund the Democrats. So it just really messed up stuff on her rise to power. So people seem to want to vote against Trump more than Kamala. Now, there's people who want the vibes and the feels, and she's a woman, and they're optimistic. Oh, it's a younger person. And, I'm not saying there aren't reasons. Are there like reasons that will actually benefit the country? And do they know what she'll do to the country? It appears a lot of people do not. It appears that a lot of people do not. And whatever you assume about Kamala Harris, I mean, we can kind of know what she'll do because we are living in an administration that has her name on it. It's Biden-Harris. But we do know how Trump will run things as president because he was president. So people keep saying forward, like Obama was like forward. And they kept saying, we're not going back. We're not going back. We're going forward. Okay. But if you are going forward and there's a cliff in front of you, sometimes you have to hit reverse, guys. Sometimes you got to hit reverse. So it's not always bad to go back if you need to readjust yourself, okay? If you know how to drive a car, you know what I'm saying is true. You know what I'm saying is true. So, So folks don't really know what they're getting with Kamala Harris. And to be frank, a lot of people would like to be blissfully unaware. They just would. Now, back when Obama was campaigning for Obamacare, he was saying, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Do you remember that? That didn't end up being the case. A lot of people lost their doctors. If you like your healthcare plan, you can keep your plan. That wasn't true either. I think it was maybe Politico, one of the news sites, like gave it that the lie of the year, because it wasn't true, and he had to have known it wasn't true. Other people knew that it was that he was lying. I'm pretty sure Obama knew that he was lying too when he pitched it, but he needed to pitch it to get it passed. Now, there's quite a few things that they tweaked with Obamacare to so it's not like how it originally was. Like, one thing they got rid of was a mandate, but the purpose of Obamacare was to eventually phase into some kind of like just only public option and not have to private health care. Now, Medicare for all, when people like Kamala Harris pitch Medicare for all and Bernie Sanders, they just straight up were like, yeah, this will get rid of private health care. This will get rid of private health care. And they knew that. And when they were confronted about that, Kamala Harris was like, yeah, let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of all that. And she did try to walk that back at one point, like back in 2020. There's an article where she did try to walk it back, but those are things that they actually pushed and introduced. And she certainly earned the most liberal spot as far as the Senate goes, even more left wing than Bernie Sanders. So anyway, I want to take you back down memory lane. So again, this is Jonathan Gruber. He's the architect of Obamacare, and he flat out says, hey, the lack of transparency, stupidity of the voter, that worked in our favor.
You just literally cannot do it. Okay, transparent financing, unless I have transparent financing, also transparent spending. I mean, this bill was written in a tortured way to make sure CBO did not score the mandate as taxes. If CBO scored the mandate as taxes, the bill dies. Okay, so it's written to do that. In terms of risk-rated subsidies, if you had a law which said healthy people are going to pay in, it made explicit that healthy people pay in and sick people get money, it would not have passed. Okay, just like lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to get anything to pass. And, it's the second best argument. Look, I wish Mark was right. We can make it all transparent. But I'd rather have this law than not. So it's kind of like his reporter story. Yeah, there's things I wish I could change, but I'd rather have this law than not.
Okay, so lack of transparency, political advantage. Call it the stupidity of the American voter. I wanted to call this episode that, but I thought YouTube would kind of flag that a little bit. So, but that's also what he mentioned, the stupidity of the American voter. And the Democrats continuously depend on Americans being stupid. And it's just the truth. I'm not saying there's not people on the right who aren't stupid and sycophants and who will regurgitate anything to protect their sort of tribalistic, cultish persona. I mean, it's on both sides for sure, but to weaponize just lies and to weaponize a lack of honesty, lack of transparency like this, that is very much a Democrat thing. It's very much a Democrat thing, and they've been proud of it for some time. And we see this repeatedly. Again, we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it. And Democrats, they don't care that Kamala Harris has gone like almost 40 days now. I think it's like 37 days since she's been like the person who was going to succeed Joe Biden. And she still hasn't done any press conferences. She still hasn't done any interviews. Now, apparently she's going to do an interview. We don't know who it's going to be with, but it was announced she's going to do an interview. They said she's going to do it at the end of the month, at the beginning of the month. So they waited all this time post-convention to do an interview. I don't know which day and I don't know which network, but it's not even going to be with just Kamala Harris. It's going to be with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. So they could probably play off of each other. And basically he can hold her hand like the little girl she is, and probably answer more questions than her, because he appears to be better at speaking than her. So she's going to be the president, maybe, of the United States, the leader of the free world. And she can't even do a sit down interview like a big girl by herself. And everyone is fine with it. The Democrats are fine with it. The media is fine with it. The media is not only fine with that, the media is covering for her. I want to show you this video with Tom Cotton and Kamala Harris. About Kamala Harris. Now, props to Tom here. Tom just killed it. Like he please Republicans, take notes on how he handled this interview and just don't allow them to be like, oh, Kamala Harris changed her policies. Did you hear her say that? Did you hear her say that? She didn't change her mind. Did those words come out of her mouth? I don't think so. Has she explained that she's changed her mind? Why? Why she change her mind? Did she explain that? Because JD Vance has had to explain his evolution on Trump several times, and he's done a good job explaining it, and it's rational and it makes sense. You could say, no, he just changed his mind because he wanted to be VP and he wanted to MAGA people to vote for him so he could be a senator. You could say all that, but his reasoning for how he evolved still makes total sense. Still makes total sense. Kamala Harris has not sat down to explain why she wanted to give illegals health care and why she doesn't know. I'm assuming she still wants to do that, by the way. I'm sure she wants to. I don't know how much she'll admit it, but I'm sure she wants to do that. I'm sure she wants to. So let's watch this video, masterclass here from Tom Cotton. Just great stuff.
And President Trump is going to draw a sharp contrast with Kamala Harris, who has supported things like decriminalizing illegal immigration or giving taxpayer-funded health insurance to illegal aliens or taking away health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, banning gas cars, confiscating firearms.
What do you mean taking away health insurance? What are you talking about?
She said when she ran for president that she wants to eliminate private health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, John.
Yeah, I mean that is not her position now. She knows.
How do you know that's not her position? How do you know that's not her position?
I mean, she says she no longer supports Medicare for all.
She has not said that. Okay. Maybe anonymous aides on a Friday night have said that, but the last thing that she said.
But this was not a radical convention. I mean, she. As you heard me go through with Bernie Sanders, she is not taking the positions of the far left of her party. She's clearly making an effort to move to the middle.
I did hear what you said to Senator Sanders, and I thought it was clear that he's very disappointed that she's taking these efforts not to change her positions, but to hide her positions, John. The American people are totally justified to conclude that Kamala Harris is a dangerous San Francisco liberal based on what she campaigned on the last time she ran for president and what this administration has done for the last 4 years. Again, you would have thought watching the Democratic convention last week that the Democrats are not in office, that they're not in power, that they're campaigning against an incumbent Republican, when in reality, she's been part of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration for 4 years. And when she campaigned for president, in her own right, she did in fact promise things like decriminalizing illegal immigration and taking away health insurance.
But that's a position she's clearly changed on, and she said she has changed. Yes, she has.
No, she has not. John, she has not said that.
And Tom is right. She has not said that. When she say it? If I was him, Tom, I'm adding the suggestion. But I think he did a great job. He did a wonderful job. The only thing that could have probably made it better was your ABC News. Pull up a clip. Pull up a clip with words exiting her mouth, denouncing her former positions. You got everything archived. I'm just sure. I'll just sit here. I'll just sit here in my seat while you pull all this up. Well, I'll just play 2048 or something while you while you pull it up. I got time. Show me the clip. Just show me the clip. You say she did it. Show me the clip. You guys are the news. Show me the clip. Pull up the article. Her words. Or so, if you ain't got a video. So, but he did a great job. He did a great job. And by the way, he's correct. She's correct. She has talked about getting rid of private healthcare insurance because those will be the consequences for Medicare for all. Those are the consequences of it. And being confronted with that, she was like, yeah, let's get rid of all that. She said it to Jake Tapper. Now she tried to kind of walk it back and say that she was confused about the question or whatever, but we know the sorts of things that she pushed as a senator. We're just supposed to forget her radical records. And like, she took any position she could, any like radical position to stand out in 2020 or 2019 when she was running for president. And people are just supposed to just let that go and not nail her for it. Like Beto O'Rourke was like, yes, I'm taking your guns. And then he ran for governor of Texas and tried to pretend like we don't have a video of him saying, yes, I'm taking your guns. Like, you have to think long term about this stuff. I'm not saying that people can't change their positions, but you do have to explain your evolution of why you've changed your positions. You have to explain that. It can be as easy as, well, I was really ignorant at the time and I did some research. But I don't expect her to say that. You were really ignorant when you ran for president? Yes and yes. Yes, she is. So I think it's scary. Again, that was ABC, where they're supposed to have the debate on that network. That wasn't MSNBC. That wasn't CNN. Like, if you're going to think of a network that was biased, maybe your first one is MSNBC. Maybe next is CNN. But and then maybe you go ABC and like CB, like the other one. Like, I think people think maybe a little bit better of those networks a little bit. But I mean, there's like hacks, like, on there for sure. But to be like, yes, she did. She said it. It's just not true. So why are you arguing with Tom Cotton defending Kamala Harris? She should come on your show and defend her positions and explain how she changed things. Are they slipping you a check, bruh? Are they slipping you a check? And then to go to, well, the convention wasn't that radical. The convention wasn't that progressive. Oh, it vibes and love and hearts and rainbows and stars. Forward. Okay, but at the end of the day, we still know all these people. We know, okay, maybe it wasn't so radical, but we still know that if they get a majority, they're going to kill the filibuster. And then they want to reform the Supreme Court because they don't like the rulings and they want to be able to affect the world or the country very quickly without passing things that are kind of not popular. But if they can just do like sweeping legislation changes via the Supreme Court, that's great for them. So there's many radical things that they want to do, and we should be concerned. Kamala Harris has said things about using executive orders for firearms. He mentioned, confiscating firearms. That's what mandatory buybacks are. Some people think buybacks, but you got to remember the word mandatory. So the way the media is falling all over themselves to defend her is insane. And there's been videos, different coverage from the convention, the DNC convention, of different politicians, defending basically her not really going and speaking, sitting down for interviews to really detail her policies and so on. Lack of transparency is a huge advantage for them. It's a strategy. Depending on the stupidity of the American voter, that's a huge strategy for them. And I'm not saying that their side is the only side with like low information voters. That's not what I'm saying. But man, they have good days when there's a lot of them out there. That's one reason why, like, some people are just like, oh, the mail-in ballots. Oh, they're going to rig the election. Oh, all this stuff. They don't need honestly, guys. Whatever your notions about 2020 are, just take them out of your head for a second. Democrats don't actually need to cheat if they can just basically repeat what they did in 2020 as far as the mail-in ballots. And if they got rid of the Electoral College, you can do everything by popular vote, because it's really easy to herd sheep. And in dense population areas and stuff where they can just flood, you know, ad after ad and have their armies go one place to another. And then they have the media on their side where they have alternative media on their side, radio, celebrities, TV shows doing all kinds of indoctrination. The indoctrination on TV during 2020 was insane. Like BLM stuff and you know, COVID stuff, all kinds of different stuff. In 2020, the propaganda on TV was just insane. They have every lever of power basically in order to shape the minds of the masses. And so if you can have people who are low informed voters and you can get them a ballot, send out a ballot, and then you pressure people nonstop to turn it in. That's what happened in 2020. There were ads I was watching. I've said this before, but in 2020, I was watching Interview with a Vampire with my family. I'm sorry, not Interview with a Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy. I was watching A Vampire in Brooklyn with my family on Bounce TV. Okay. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Bounce TV, but if you know, let your imagination go a little wild for a second. Not even wild, like what you assume. It's a local Black network, okay? Like really local. So there were these ads that came on, and it was like people will be able to see if you voted or not. And how it was aired, it was like really creepy. It was almost like a threat. Like they aired it like 2 times in a row, and then they played like a Biden ad, and then they played it again, and then they played it like one about Gary Peters. He's running against John James. And so now people can't look up and see specifically that you voted for Trump or Biden or whatever, but people got so hammered in 2016 like, how come you guys didn't vote, or how come you voted a third party, you let all this stuff happen, blah blah blah. So there's just an extraordinary amount of pressure in 2020, and you had people like Michelle Obama and other folks saying, get your ballot, turn it in, get your ballot, turn it in. I'm like, you guys don't want to hear like more debates. You guys don't want to hear more information about the candidates. You just want them to get the ballot and turn it in. By the time Trump and Biden had that last final debate, which I believe Donald Trump won, and so many people had already voted by then. So if they can make low information, it very easy for low information voters to participate, which they even have vote in Michigan. They changed a bunch of our stuff, so now you can register to vote and vote on the same day, and they want to make that, you know, nationwide. Like if you didn't care enough to vote, I mean to register to vote until election day, how informed are you probably about the election? Not very, I would assume. And a lot of people, because I went to a picnic where a Democrat picnic, they didn't know I was Republican, but the Secretary of State mentioned like, hey, a lot of these people are young people who voted, like registered on the day and then decided to vote. So they don't have to cheat. They really don't have to. They don't have to. I think it's kind of a rigged system because of we're supposed to have an honest media. We don't. They're supposed to be the watchdogs. It doesn't matter. They're clearly on one side, and they won't come out and say, hey, we're clearly on one side. It should be obvious they're on one side, but they try to pretend like they're just giving the news to you straight. I saw Caitlin Collins from CNN. She went on Bill Maher, and I'm not going to play it because it's a long clip and I don't want HBO to ding me. They probably will. I'll probably do TikTok about it or something later, but she was like, oh no, we give the news straight, because he mentioned how she was on, I think maybe Colbert show, and the audience laughed when they said like they just give the news straight. And so he asked her about that, and she's like, no, we have all sides on there. And but they only mentioned one guy. Now I'm sure that they have more than one Republican voice that's on there. But she said, you know, we cover all things. Like we covered when Joe Biden was you know, when they start asking questions about, you know, his health after the debate. Now, I thought that was very interesting, and it's too bad Bill Maher doesn't think to pounce, okay? Because they're pretty much, he can dog on them, but they're still in the same sphere. But my mind immediately went to, Yeah, you cover when Joe Biden's like senility was questionable because y'all wanted him out. Prior to the debate, y'all were like, everything's fine. These are conspiracy theories. They're cheap fakes, deep fakes. He's better than ever. What are you talking about? You guys are crazy. Do you guys remember that? It wasn't too long ago. So now all of a sudden, like, well, yeah, we covered his health, so we're straight journalists. We cover the issues. How we just deliver the news, but you didn't deliver the news until you had a plan to force him out. So you covered for him until you couldn't, and then you kicked the old man out of a window. That's what you did. So no kudos to you for what you did. No kudos at all. There was another story out this weekend that a journalist wrote basically about Kamala Harris hiding. Was it Jonathan Hardrow? I know I screenshot it. Give me 1 second. I read the article, and basically it was along the lines of, hey, we would like Kamala Harris to speak to us, but this is a campaign strategy. And it's like, yes, that's very bad. She doesn't deserve to be president. Because if you can't talk to the American people, how are you going to talk to dictators? How are you going to manage anything on the world stage? Like when she decides that she's not going to talk to American people at all, and she's going to do maybe less interviews than Joe Biden, is everyone just going to let her get away with it? At least Joe Biden is like senile. What is Kamala Harris's excuse? What is her excuse for being so bad, even worse than him? Even after he dropped out, he was still doing interviews, still lying through his teeth, but he was still not doing a good job. But at least he was out there. She ain't did nothing. How long does it take for the vice president to be prepped and sit down for a conversation about what she's going to do to the country? She owes it to the American people, but she doesn't think that you are worthy of that sort of consideration. And that's what's so annoying about all this. That's what ticks me off. So it was John Harwood. He said Republicans want Kamala to hold more news conferences and submit to more interviews. So do journalists. Why won't she do nearly as much as they'd like? Because she's trying to win the election. Duh! So they know it's a strategy. They're all like wink and nod. They're all in on the joke. And they don't care. They don't care. Can you imagine if someone had the courage to say what he said and to end it with, and for that reason, you shouldn't vote for her? For that reason, you shouldn't vote for her. If you don't have the courage to sit down, it shouldn't take you like 40 days to have a joint interview with your vice presidential candidate nominee who was a governor and could probably answer most of the questions that you are too chicken to answer for yourself or too incompetent to answer by yourself. So if they're going to be next to each other, it's probably going to be all vibes. Vibes this, vibes that. I taught Tim here how to use taco seasoning. Like, we don't need that interview. We don't need that interview. We need to know, madam, you once said that you supported mandatory buybacks. You've once said that if the Congress doesn't act fast enough within the 100 days, you are going to take executive orders on firearms. Do you still plan to do such things? And if not, why the change of mind? Why the change of heart? Madam Vice President, if you're elected, how will we know that you're going to do what you're saying that you're going to do, considering that you have said many things, such as Joe Biden tried to allege that he was trying to keep you from integrating in schools, even though your school wasn't segregated. And when you were asked about it, you started laughing and said it was a debate. So if you're willing to say anything on the debate stage to win an election, how do we know that you won't just say and do anything when you face Donald Trump to win an election? I think that's a good question. I think that's a good question. There's lots of good questions. Here's another video here of the media lying and covering for Kamala Harris about things they reported. Like, you guys know that she was the border czar, and then the media reported that she was the border czar. And then they started saying, oh, no, she wasn't the border czar. This is just something that the Republicans said. The Republicans might say that, but czars, like Obama had czars, like that's just something that they do, I guess. But she was the border czar. And it was reported that she was the border czar. You guys, the people saying that she wasn't that position, literally reported that that was her position. So they changed on that. They changed on other things. Before I play this clip, let me remind you that was it PolitiFact said that Donald Trump was mostly false because he said that Kamala Harris was going to confiscate firearms. And they're like, well, he's saying this is present tense, but she said this in the past. You have no reason to believe those are not her intentions. None. And they're still running on assault weapons ban. So whatever the heck that means. So yeah, she still wants to confiscate your firearms. Like, what are you talking about? But he said present tense and it was past tense. Where's your evidence that she doesn't still want to do that? Play the clip. Play the clip. Oh, you ain't got one. You ain't got one. But now here's another clip of the media just lying.
One of the programs that she started on truancy, which is what a lot of people have been hitting my Twitter feed about, how, that program, from their criticism is it separated Black children from their families. Mm-hmm. She talks about the fact that, there were a lot of tough decisions that were made, but I stand by them. She's going to have to talk about that more fully. Kamala Harris never sent parents to jail for their kids' truancy. One of the programs.
Now I know that's a lie. Because I've seen interviews with there was a mother, her daughter was sick, like chronically sick, and so she missed a lot of school or whatever, but they ended up throwing that mother in jail for truancy. There's video of Kamala Harris saying that she was prosecuting prosecute parents on truancy, and she's laughing about what she's going to do. And when it actually started happening, and I guess started getting negative press and stuff, they're like, whoopsie. Yeah, what? When you institute things, why are you surprised when the thing happens that you want it to happen? But this man is lying to you. This Don Lemon knockoff is lying to you. And he must know that he's lying. I know that was like 5 years ago, but still, how do you forget something like that you covered? And as a journalist, knowing that she's running for president, there's certain things that you would just kind of brush up on, I would think, and be familiar with. So I just can't believe, like, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I just can't believe that he's unaware of reality. But there they go again. There they go again. So this is scary. This is dangerous. This is really messed up. Another thing that's pretty messed up, Kamala Harris and her team, they want to change the debate rules. Now, if you recall, Donald Trump tried to add days for the debates. He wanted a Fox News debate, and negotiated himself, which is what Joe Biden did. He negotiated stuff and just expected them to go along with it. But Kamala was saying, say it to my face or whatever. So it's like, okay, we'll have more debates. And she didn't want to do a Fox News debate. Her reasons were kind of dumb. Like, I understand why she wouldn't want someone who's going to ask her a substantive question and is hoping other people will be friendly to her and more hostile toward him. I get it. I understand, but really shady. But she wouldn't do that when Trump's just like, okay, I relent. We're going to stick to the same rules, because everyone's like, why are you backing out? Why are you backing out? And our side is like, he made a deal with Joe Biden. He ain't made no deal with Kamala Harris. Like, you are an entirely different person than Joe Biden's. Like, okay, whatever. He agreed to their terms in this ABC debate, despite the fact that George Stephanopoulos is a hack. Still going to do it, right? The debate. Now they are going back and forth. Now, mind you, Kamala Harris and her team were like, the debate about debates is over. Like, she just got to declare it herself. The debate about debates is over. Okay, but now they're having debates about debates. So she wants there to be hot mics. So in the Biden debate, when someone's time was over, they muted the mic. Now, the Trump team didn't really want that, but they agreed to it. And, he probably didn't want, Biden probably didn't want Trump to speak over him and interrupt him or whatever, make him all confused or whatnot, or try to interrupt him while he's trying to grandstand about his son who passed away or whatever. Because he does that a lot, like an unusual amount. I don't want people to think I'm just terribly insensitive about his son who passed away, but he uses it as a political weapon inappropriately all the time. And so that's why I brought it up. But because there were times when in his first debate with Trump where he clearly was trying to grandstand with his son's passing. He doesn't even explain it properly in a historical way. Anyway, he probably didn't want him to like interrupt him and getting confused or whatever, and be able to make clips of him saying like a list of things about Donald Trump sucking or whatever. So anyway, the muting of the mics worked out pretty good. Maybe they wanted Trump to have like an angry rant when we like with a muted microphone going rah, 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 rah. Well, there's like a split screen, but that didn't happen. Trump was pretty much quiet when it wasn't his turn. And Don Jr. after the debate was like, I actually like this. I think it makes my father more disciplined. So he liked it, and it worked for Trump's benefit. It did. So Kamala Harris wants the mics hot. Now, again, they already agreed that they would be muted, but now she wants them hot. And she probably wants them hot because she would like to make a girl boss moment or I'm so brat moment like this.
Well, let's get but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to add, but
here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I'm
speaking.
Well, let's get
but Susan,
yeah, I'm sure she's dying for that kind of moment with Donald Trump. Like I'm sure. Like there's probably t-shirts. Like she had t-shirts for when she like set up Biden. I'm sure there's like they have it in their mind with how they want this to go down. And they're even like her campaign people are even like baiting Trump like, oh, he must be so insulted that his team doesn't even think that he can, control himself without a microphone being muted. So they are really trying to bait him into the situation. And she probably wants to interrupt him herself as well. She probably wants to be able to do that herself. She also wants to sit down, and she also wants notes. Now, why would Kamala Harris really want notes? Because apparently she's not good with going off the cuff. Apparently she's not good at that. Now, I wonder what will happen. I think Trump should just be, he's saying like, whether the mic's muted or not muted, like, it's not a big deal to me. He's like, but we should go with the original rules. And I think that's true. I think that's the case. They should go with the original rules. I especially don't think that they should give her what she wants. She's a last minute person coming in. Here was Trump talking about the rule changes or attempts.
Would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine. I mean, ask Biden how it worked out. It was fine. And I think it should be the same. We agreed to the same rules and same specifications. And I think that's probably what it should be. But they're trying to change it. The truth is they're trying to get out of it because she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
Now, I think there's some truth to that. And if they can bait him into getting out of it because they're changing things or whatever, they'd be like, oh, Trump's scared. Trump's scared. I don't think Trump's scared of anybody. You know, now he didn't debate and stuff and give people opportunity coming after him in the primary. And I didn't like that or whatever. But I think that he genuinely thinks that he will mop the floor with her. I think that he thinks that. Now, I'm not sure if that's the truth, if that's the case. I think it's interesting that Kamala Harris feels like she needs to have notes and other stuff. So I don't know how bad she is. I mean, she's pretty bad when we see different interviews and stuff. And it's pretty bad that they're hiding her from doing interviews, knowing that most of them will probably be fun and glowing anyway. I don't see people, you know, grilling her too hard. And there's not even a lot of time left before people start voting to really utterly destroy her with different interviews. So to me, it's man, they must really know how awful she is. Is it even worse than what we think and what we know? And that was what Harwood was saying, like, oh, but if she does press conferences, then the headlines will be this and the headlines will be that, and it'll be a distraction. Like, well, the headlines have to be what they're gonna be. Like, Trump goes out there, has conversations with people, and then they'll run headlines with his words totally out of context. And they don't seem to care when they make crazy headlines about Donald Trump. It's so ridiculous, the double standard between Trump and Kamala Harris, or just Republicans and Democrats in general. And it's scary. It's concerning. Beyond all the crazy policies that the Democrats want to implement, it is concerning how the media is so one-sided and will cover for them. It's really insane, and you should be concerned. Like, people like, oh, Trump's a threat to democracy. Someone who's been prosecuted, convicted, and like, so he's not above the law. He's been investigated a lot, convicted over silly crap. So he's not above the law. It's not like the media doesn't cover him. They cover him pretty harshly. I'm not saying he doesn't merit some negative press. I've definitely given him some negative commentary, and I'm about to give him some now. But they really are unfair to him, though. And you can see it from the comparison with him and Harris. So if they're not willing to cover Harris, honestly, now, what will happen if she's president and we're in some really terrible situations, but they want to protect their girl, the person who they allowed to just kind of sit upon the throne? But she want them notes, huh? I think this very like Mike Pence beat her in the debate, and there was all kinds of think pieces like after their debate to kind of excuse it, like, oh, Black women can't go as hard, or they'll be, you know, seen as hostile. There's some truth to that, actually, but but all these think pieces, it's just like, okay, you're kind of acknowledging that he won, but most of you want to focus on the fact that there was a fly in Mike Pence's hair during the debate. So he totally beat her. And I think Donald Trump can totally beat her, but I don't think it's a given that Trump is just going to wipe the floor with her. Now, I'm sure Trump believes that. So people are like, oh, Trump just wants to. No, Trump hasn't had the media is not doing their due diligence as far as putting her record on blast. So that is Trump's job. And I don't think that Trump can possibly do a good enough job. As to what is actually appropriate, he may do a decent job, but is he going to do like a Tom Cotton kind of tear down or prosecute her in the way that like Ted Cruz or somebody could? I don't think so. But he has to do a good job because no one else is doing that job. No one else is doing that job. So I definitely think he wants to debate her. I definitely think their debate should have happened earlier. Because again, some of the people are going to start being able to request ballots in like 2 weeks, guys. Less than 2 weeks. So the election's almost over. I mean, you got to work until the last day. But voting starts as soon as that first ballot goes out. And they're still hiding the girl. So now I gotta ream on Trump a bit. Now, oh boy. So this is a very important election, and I've laid out a little bit about why it's so scary and dangerous for Kamala Harris to be the president and so on, even reasons outside of herself. But because this is such a crucial election, it is upon Trump and important that Trump is the most, I don't know, electable, is the most, he's the best candidate that he can possibly be, that he runs the best campaign he possibly can. And I understand that he's basically been running to the middle, even in the primary. He was to the left of basically everybody. And he was to the left of DeSantis and so on, you know. He wouldn't debate them really. Well, not really. He didn't even want there to be debates really between them. And that's one of the reasons why Ronna McDaniel was pushed out of the RNC after he became the official nominee, or was about to. But no, I think it was probably official by then. But, you know, but anyway, Donald Trump, it's on him. The people chose him. He has to make his case to the American people. But there's some people who hate his guts and will never give him a shot because they don't like him. As I said earlier, there's so many people who say that they're voting for Kamala Harris. They don't have good reasons for voting for Kamala Harris. They have reasons why they don't want to vote for Donald Trump. And there's a lot of people on the right who don't necessarily, there are good reasons to vote for Donald Trump, but they more want to vote against Kamala Harris. And there's even people who really don't like Trump, but they want to so badly vote for him if he gives them a reason. But Trump keeps doing things that makes it hard for folks. So I was talking to somebody earlier today, and this conversation about to show you with JD Vance on a morning show, Sunday show, and comments that he made on Friday about he'll protect reproductive rights, which is the lingo that the left uses for like abortion, and those sorts of things made that person believe he's asking questions like, was Trump always a fraud? And I don't want people to have to think that. I don't want people to feel so totally conflicted like this, because what JD Vance here says, it's beyond like this, a lot of conversations that they've been having.
Let's talk about another big issue. It was talked about at the Democratic National Convention. It's being talked about on the campaign trail. Abortion. Sure. Democrats made the case this week and beyond this week that Donald Trump, if elected, will impose a federal ban on abortion if he wins. Now, Donald Trump says he won't, but can you commit, Senator, sitting right here with me today, that if you and Donald Trump are elected, that you will not impose a federal ban on abortion?
I can absolutely commit that, Kristen. And Donald Trump has been as clear about that as possible. I think it's important to step back and say, what has Donald Trump actually said on the abortion question, and how is it different from what Kamala Harris and the Democrats have said? Donald Trump wants to end this culture war over this particular topic. If California wants to have a different abortion policy from Ohio, then Ohio has to respect California and California has to respect Ohio. Donald Trump's view is that we want the individual states and their individual cultures and their unique political sensibilities to make these decisions, because we don't want to have a nonstop federal conflict over this issue. The federal government ought to be focused on getting food prices down, getting housing prices down, issues, of course, where Kamala Harris has been a total disaster. So I think Donald Trump is right. We want the federal government to focus on these big economic and immigration questions. Let the states figure out their own abortion policy.
Let me just follow up with you a little bit on that point, because I've been talking to Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham just last week, who've made it very clear that if Donald Trump is elected, if you are elected, they will continue to press this point. Senator Graham said to me, I'm going to keep saying that there should be a federal ban. If such a piece of legislation landed on Donald Trump's desk, would he veto it?
I think it'd be very clear he would not support it. I mean, he said that explicitly. Yeah, I mean, if you're not supporting it as the president of the United States, you fundamentally have to veto it.
So he would veto a federal abortion ban?
I think he would. He said that explicitly that he would. And
I don't
again,
think he's ever said explicitly he would. He said that to you?
Lindsey Graham, Kristen, I would be surprised. I mean, again, I need to see the context on what Lindsey Graham said, because Lindsey Graham himself has not advocated a federal abortion ban.
Yes,
Lindsey
he
Graham
has.
advocated
15-week federal abortion
a
ban.
federal minimum standard. Now, to be clear, that is not Donald Trump's view. Donald Trump disagrees with Lindsey Graham on this, but no Republican, at least no Republican with any reasonable power, is saying that we should have a complete national abortion ban. I haven't heard that from any of my colleagues. And to be clear, Donald Trump, I think, has staked his position and made it very explicit. He wants this to be a state decision.
So, okay. Lindsey Graham, he did push, this was like right before the midterms. It was a 15-week. And his reasoning was like, hey, if you wanted to have a baby and there needed to be some kind of surgery at that point in time, in 15 weeks, they would start giving your baby some kind of drugs to help it with manage the pain. And if that's where we're at least going to be giving, you know, preborn in the womb different drugs to manage its pain, because they can feel pain at possibly at that point, then I think that's a reasonable position right there where we should, you know, protect that life. And the Democrats are immediately like, that's an abortion ban. That's an abortion ban. Now, it is technically a ban. It's also an allowance for most abortions to occur. And the Democrats still weren't okay with that. Now, if Lindsey Graham put a 15-week, somehow got a 15-week bill passed. Now, the honest thing that he didn't seem to mention here was that there's probably not going to be enough numbers to pass a ban. Now, Republican numbers, not even if there was a little bit of Democrat crossover, which are not going to cross over for that, we're not going to be able to get to enough votes to do a national ban. Not presently right now, unless there's like a lot of people replaced. It's just not going to happen. That was Nikki Haley's route. She would say, we don't have the numbers. People need to be honest with you. We don't have the numbers. And then she'd go into, can we all agree that you shouldn't jail women and different things? I'm like, no, some things we actually need to debate. You can't just pretend like everybody's just like absurd. You have to actually debate these issues. But she's correct that like you're not going to get enough numbers for a national ban. 15 weeks though, isn't it funny that people always say, oh, we need some compromise. We need some nuance. Now, I don't agree with a 15-week ban either. Because it's the same human being at 15 weeks that is a 14 and 13 and so on. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I understand his reasoning. But most Americans don't believe that abortion should take place after 15 weeks. And it's funny that people support Roe v. Wade because that wouldn't allow babies to be protected at 15 weeks, right? So and most people I would say don't actually support Roe v. Wade. If they do support Roe v. Wade, it's because they don't know what it does. But the left is getting more radical on their positions with abortion. Basically, like if a woman wants to do this, she should be able to do it. All 9 months doesn't matter. That's the direction that they're heading. While Republicans are heading, they're chasing after that same kind of position, just really slowly, and not slow enough to be frank. So if Lindsey Graham introduced a 15-week bill and said, hey, we're going to protect life at 15 weeks, is Donald Trump going to veto that? Because they would call it a ban, and it is a ban after 15 weeks. It's not a total ban. which apparently Trump doesn't seem like he's interested in that, because when Arizona could institute their own laws again, as far as what's on the books about abortion, he wanted the legislature to very quickly do something to change that, to legalize abortion. So I understand he's not for a ban. And he said that heartbeat bills were terrible. So by the heartbeat bill, by 6 weeks, you have a heartbeat. You also have your brain starting to develop and stuff too. So it seems to me, especially if you look at the Republican Party platform, that they changed and bullied the Republicans into changing, which I covered that at the time. I have an article on my website you guys can check out, but they did some pretty unethical things to change the platform to make it pro-choice. But the only kind of abortion that they really condemn is late-term abortion, and only like 1.3% of abortions are late-term abortions. And not all of them are for medical reasons. A lot of reasons why women have late-term abortions is for same reasons they have them early: financial reasons, relationship reasons. Maybe they didn't find out that they were pregnant until later, but it's not some kind of severe medical complication. But that's still what, like 10,000 abortions, maybe? Like, most of them happen in the first trimester. So Donald Trump will say, oh, they're so radicals, the Democrats are so radical on this issue. But I don't think you're that less of a radical because you only want 10,000 less babies to die out of like 1 million a year. So I understand JD was asked a question and he didn't answer it. Him saying explicitly Donald Trump will veto something, I don't think that they probably had that conversation. And I don't think he probably had the, I'm not saying that that's not Donald Trump's answer, but he is going on there representing Donald Trump's position. I don't know if he would walk that back. I think he should have answered it differently. He probably could have said, we're not, let's be realistic, we're not going to get that number. He could ask a clarifying question about what do you mean a ban? Like, can you be specific? And if she meant like Lindsey Graham's 15 weeks, if that's something that Donald Trump would ban, that's pretty crazy to me. Now you could say, well, it's supposed to be left up to the states. Guys, I know people keep saying that, and Donald Trump keeps going around saying like, oh, it should be left up to the states, and this is what everybody wanted, but it's not true. It's not true. And it's not what he originally campaigned on either. He said he would appoint judges and the Roe v. Wade would be overturned, and he said that there'd be a ban. And he originally said that criminalize a woman too, but he walked that back real fast. But in the Republican platform, it used to say that they wanted the 14th Amendment to apply to the preborn. It did not say that, oh, we want it to be a state-by-state issue. But the Democrats have a pretty clear understanding of what they want. And they want abortion access, no restrictions. Pretty much no restrictions. And if there seems to be some restrictions, it's written in a way where it's kind of fuzzy and vague, but it's still pretty much no restrictions. The Republicans are like, if you want no restrictions in whatever state you want, that's fine. If that's what you and your state decide. And I'll keep mentioning this because it keeps being true. Like, saying that abortion is a states' rights issue is kind of like saying that slavery is a states' rights issue, because we're talking about the dehumanization of human beings and denying them rights based on what individual states want. Yeah. So I was talking to someone earlier, and they were trying to defend some of Trump's positions on this stuff, and I said, okay, because I said, he said that heartbeat bills are terrible, and he's like, no, he just thinks it's terrible that DeSantis decided to institute a heartbeat bill, and the people should have been able to decide. I'm like, okay, is it terrible if the government says, hey, you can't lynch Black people? And the people didn't get to decide whether or not that you can do that. Like, they didn't put it up as a ballot proposal. Like, what if the people decided that, yes, you should be able to lynch Black people? And he's like, that's very different, because the question of what an individual is very clear when it comes to like Black people versus like if you're, pregnancy. And I said, if it wasn't clear that the preborn are individuals, then when women went to go have abortions, they wouldn't expect to come out alive. They don't expect their arms and legs to be torn off. They don't expect their skulls to be crushed. They don't expect to be suffocated / starved to death. They're very aware of the fact that they are doing that to someone else, whether they value that person or individual or not. So that is an individual life. That is a whole human organism. And we can keep playing games if we want. Elon Musk keeps talking about the woke mind virus. I'm like, it is a mind virus for a parent to be like, oh yeah, my son is totally a girl. Let me go help him take drugs and hormones to suppress the puberty and eventually whack off his penis. That is a mind virus that's very dangerous. But how is it not also a dangerous mind virus to be like, yeah, this thing inside of me, it's just a cluster of cells. It's just a cluster of cells. It's got a heartbeat in the brain. There's brain activity. Maybe it can feel pain. I don't know, but I'm gonna go. We can kill it. Uterus the fetus. Is that not a dangerous mind virus? Woke mind virus. So there's a lot of pro-life people very upset about what was said here by JD Vance and the comments that they made on Friday as well. Actually, I don't know if it was Friday. It might have been Friday or Thursday, but Friday we talked about it. I think it was Friday because I think it interrupted my plans of what I was actually going to talk about that day. About reproductive freedom being good in the Trump administration. And folks are upset, but some of these activists are saying like, oh, this is so terrible. This is so terrible. We're still going to vote for him. But there's other people who are like, every opportunity you're giving me a reason not to. And I just can't stomach this. And some people are coming for people who are making decisions like that saying, oh, so you're going to support Kamala Harris? Maybe they're not. Probably they won't. But if they leave it blank, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We have to fight. We have to defeat her. She deserves to be defeated. She must be defeated. And Trump owes it to the American people to not totally throw his base away, to not totally tick off evangelicals, to stop the war with the pro-life movement that he's had basically for the last 2 years. If he can go chase the middle all he wants, he can go chase voters that don't like him and aren't going to support him. And if he loses a percentage or two along the way because he's gone too far to the left, trying to pick up, different Democrats, and people are concerned because Kennedy said something about there's going to be other Democrats. So people are kind of interpreting that there might be Democrats in his administration. They're kind of like, if we're just becoming the left or becoming the Democrats and have to adopt them to beat them, then they've already won. Because the Democrats' position on abortion is as immoral as it is. They lead with their convictions. It does, because they're saying, no, it's a woman's right, and you shouldn't limit someone's fundamental right like this. It would be like saying that civil rights should be state to state. Like you should be able to like lynch black people, I guess, state to state or whatever. That you should be able to discriminate and so on. But we have laws against that. That everyone deserves equal protection, correct? So you can't just treat people any kind of way. And we protect that across the country. So they're saying this is a fundamental right to women that needs to be protected on a federal level. And Republicans are telling you, yes, I think it's killing babies, but that's something that we should decide on a state level. That sounds crazy. That sounds crazy. So even though Democrats are like, we want to be able to have access to do this, Republicans are the ones who sound like they have the immoral position on this now. And I know the talking point, and they're like restructuring people's brains to be like, no, it's a states issue, it's a states issue, it's a states 10th Amendment. There's no reason why the 14th Amendment shouldn't apply to the preborn. But at the very least, people should be defending and trying to change these state laws as much as possible. Now we are overrun with like pro-abortion propaganda, and they're probably going to take in some wins. in November, and they've already taken in some wins, but that doesn't mean you should back down. The pro-gay lobby did not stop when when gay marriage was banned in 2008. They didn't stop. They took that all the way to Supreme Court, and now everywhere has to do gay marriage. So they shouldn't have more conviction for that than people on the right have for saving the unborn. So Donald Trump should win. He does need to win, or he kind of needs to win. Maybe I won't say should. He needs to win. Kamala Harris needs to be defeated, but he needs to be worthy of that W. And he needs to do better. And JD Vance needs to do better. And they need to stop alienating these people, because it's not just their votes that they need. They need people to door knock, because the RNC doesn't have that kind of infrastructure. The DNC, they are far more prepared for election day than we are. They just are. So they need people to not only be enthused to vote for Trump, they need people to be enthused to go convince someone else to vote for him too. And you keep demoralizing people who loved you, supported you. And for what? For what? To chase people who do not want you. Steve Deese said something about Trump, and I think this is going to be where I leave it at. But he said something about the evangelicals who want to, I guess, sit out. He said, today's theology question: if you're someone saying you can't vote for Trump now because of what he is currently saying on the sanctity of life, which is an issue the Bible holds as preeminent, how did you justify voting for Republican presidential candidates for decades who said some of the right things about it, but actually did nothing of substance close to what Trump actually did as president? Now, I don't understand this question. I understand his question. It seems willfully ignorant or dishonest. And I don't think Steve is I don't take him for like a dishonest guy. So, but it is ignorant. In my case, the only person I have voted for president has been Donald Trump. I wasn't old enough to vote for George Bush. I wasn't even in high school. My oldest sister was in high school. I think it might have been in middle school at the time when he did his reelection. Or maybe I was in high school, like freshman or something. I don't know, but I was young. I wasn't old enough. No. Maybe when he was first elected, I definitely wasn't old enough. When he was in his second election, I was in high school, because my sister did graduate. I think she graduated, and she told me to go to her teacher, who was an ultra liberal, and tell him. And I didn't even know the man, and I hadn't had him yet. And I think I had him in, I don't know if it was 12th grade or maybe it was 11th grade. So maybe it was, I guess I could do math, but I'm not doing math right now. But she told me to go up to him and say, my sister wants you to know that the best man won. And so he's like, no, the best man conceded. The best man conceded. So anyway, yeah. So the only person that I have voted for, Trump. So to answer his question on that, no, I haven't had the opportunity to vote. No. I did, I guess, have the chance to vote for McCain and Romney. I guess I did vote for them. The only successful presidents that I did vote for was Donald Trump. But the only ones that we can judge on what they did would be the ones who won. So that would be the Bushes. So Donald Trump here, he picked 3 names that the Federalist off a list that the Federalist Society gave him, and 3 of those people became the Supreme Court justices, and that helped to overturn Roe v. Wade. And so that's what everyone goes to, like, he helped overturn Roe v. Wade. He's the most pro-life president we've ever had, et cetera, et cetera. And then he also spoke at like March to Life, but most people are thinking about Roe v. Wade being overturned. Now, he had 3 picks. what president wouldn't pick 3 people if they had 3 picks out there? So it's very strange to me when people just try to act like Donald Trump did more than the pro-life movement has ever done. When I hear rhetoric like this, it's very strange to me. Because I'm like, okay, well, how did Trump get elected? Because I worked for the Michigan Republican Party at the time, and I worked my butt off to get him elected. So me and the team and volunteers, staffers, didn't we all have a role in that? What about Mitch McConnell? Because Obama was supposed to appoint someone. He picked Merrick Garland, and McConnell was like, we're not gonna give him a chance. So that was a heck of a gamble, because Trump could have always lost, and Hillary could have appointed someone more radical than Merrick Garland. Now Merrick Garland, he's a trash AG, so I wonder how bad he would have been on the Supreme Court. But he risked it, and it paid off, and we got Gorsuch. Folks on the left were really mad, but they pulled it off. So doesn't McConnell have credit for that win? Aren't the Republicans in the Senate who went along with it? Don't they have a say in that win? Don't the voters who voted for those people, who voted to confirm them, have some kind of say in that win? What about the people who brought the case? The people in Mississippi who did the law to protect the unborn at 15 weeks, knowing that it conflicted with Roe v. Wade? The people who financed it, the people who pushed it all the way to the Supreme Court, don't they have some kind of say in the victory there? So there's a lot of people contributing to the victory of Roe v. Wade being overturned. It's not solely something that Donald Trump, did by himself. And even having a list of justices that he picked from was something that was a mandate basically on him, because people were like, well, we don't know how what kind of justices are going to pick? You don't have any voting background or anything. So how can we trust you? And so he put out a list of possible picks, and people are like, oh, these lists are actually pretty good. So that mandate on Trump was a good thing that the voters pressed upon him, and he did that as a you can trust me. Okay? So voters had a huge say in all that. But as far as the presidents, who appointed Clarence Thomas? That was Daddy Bush. Who appointed Alito? Alito was appointed by George W. Bush. So if you think that Trump, he did more than anyone else because he appointed 3 justices that overturned Roe v. Wade, it wasn't just a 3 decision like in the affirmative or whatever that got it overturned. There were other justices. It was a long time coming. So if there was some major legislation moves that he did that really made a difference, there's an executive order that I'm trying to think what it's called, about abortions overseas. Every time there's a Republican, they do it, and then when there's a Democrat, they'll return it. I can't remember what it's called, but there's some things like that. But the main thing people mention is Roe v. Wade. So when Steve says he did more than other people who just talked a big game but didn't do anything, that's not true. That's not true. So he's gonna have to be more specific about what he thinks that Trump did alone that no one else can claim any credit for. Because if Alito and Clarence Thomas is the GOAT, man. I love Clarence Thomas. But Trump didn't appoint him, and he couldn't have appointed him at the time. But the point is that he didn't. So these folks who are kind of running cover for him, it's fine if you want to still convince people who are kind of done and don't want to vote for him to vote for him. People should persuade people up until the last moment. But I think we'd be better off if we were just a little more honest with each other. But I do think that these pro-life organizations and these groups need to apply some pressure. Do you guys remember a couple of weeks ago when Kyle Rittenhouse was like, I'm not supporting Trump because of some of his opinions on the Second Amendment? Now, some of the things that they pointed out were true, but he's part of some kind of gun lobbyist thing. Now, I don't know if someone called him and kind of threatened him, well, you'll never work in this town again type of thing, or if they're like, hey, let's sit down and talk. There's these policies Trump's going to implement. We're going to protect the Second Amendment. We're going to be great. Like, if they're, I don't know how the conversation went, but let's assume it's the latter, not the former. If the pro-life groups or conservative groups just put some pressure on Trump to kind of knock this stuff off, folks would feel a lot better. So I think he really needs to throw the pro-life movement a bone. I think the best bone he could throw is coming out strongly against the amendment in Florida. And for people to say, well, it's a states' rights issue. Guess what? He lives in Florida. So he's going to cast a vote either for or against this. And if he can tip the scale on this, he should. He should. Because vote for your heart. That's you know, you have to follow your heart. That's pro-choice rhetoric. Pro-life is, it's a life. You shouldn't be able to kill it because it has a right to life. He can at the very least say, do press conference, have some screens behind him and be like, this is what a 6-week fetus looks like. It has a heartbeat. Its brain has begun to form, and all these different characteristics that we value, it's already inherent in its DNA. This is like and just show like what's the max that this law will put, and like this is what they want to be able to abort. These are your options. If you sign on to this, killing this, you know, viable baby or near viable baby or whatever, you can follow your heart, but you will be responsible for the thousands, hundreds of, well, I don't know, it'll probably be like in the tens of thousands. Florida has a really big population. I don't know what their numbers would kind of get up like with the abortions. In Michigan, we have like tens of thousands of abortions. So if you sign your name to it, you are partially responsible for those deaths. If you sign your name to that. Just, you know, and it's that's the truth. Every American has, as of now, has a say, has a responsibility, whether they're going to protect life or they're not. And this is your moment. And you could say, well, that'll be really hard for him in the general. Why would saying something like that, so true, be so detrimental to the rest of his electoral chances? Why? It's just the truth. It's just the truth. And the people who are like on the fence, there's nobody out there that are just like, I really want to vote for it, but it's just this abortion thing that's going to make me vote for communism. There is no such person. Maybe I don't want to say there's no such person, but it's likely that that's not a big difference. Okay. So anyway, that's all. That's all. I really hope that he gets people around him who will pressure him into making better decisions. Again, you could say this is the most important election of our lifetime, which we say that all the time, but it is very important. And Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, it's the most radical ticket that there's been. That's true. But that's why he has a responsibility, in my opinion, to be better and to not leave his base behind, his loyal base who would really like to support him and to get him over the finish line. But if you demoralize them and dehumanize the unborn and flat out say that you're not going to protect them, that's an issue. It's just an issue. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream room, my website, all that good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch that's available at the store, like the I Am Not the Victim You're Looking For t-shirt. And we also got the mugs. I do also have my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, the second edition, that is available on Amazon. It's still just on Amazon. Ignore the Barnes and Noble thing. But yeah, that's available. So please go ahead and check it out. I did add quite a bit in there. So go ahead and look it up. I was on a live yesterday. I was just listening and just commenting, and someone was like, Exodus, in the book of Exodus, it says that a fetus isn't a person. I'm like, it doesn't say that. And I knew what he was talking about. He was talking about the passage where there's two men fighting, and then they accidentally like hit a pregnant woman, and she, and it's like, if the the critics say that if she has a miscarriage, then there's just a fine, but if they kill the woman, then they have to pay, then it's life for a life, etc. So that shows that the fetus is less valuable. But the passage doesn't say that. You can interpret it as if she has an early delivery and there's no mischief that follows, like all's good, that you pay a fine. But if the child does die, or the woman doesn't really say it's just the woman or whatever, then it's life for a life, eye for an eye. But even if the critic was right in their interpretation, there's reasons why it still doesn't mean that the fetus isn't a person, or that you have the liberty to deliberately go out of your way to kill them. Like if you got rewarded some kind of wrongful death suit, which is civil and not criminal, would that mean that you're not a person because you got some kind of monetary compensation? It just, the circumstances play a role, and don't necessarily say whether or not, again, that someone can deliberately kill you. So it goes over stuff like that. Like I went over that in my first edition of the book, but I really dove into some more detail, because that's one that people use a lot to justify abortion and the dehumanization of the unborn, which I started asking them, because I'm like, if you really believe that a fetus isn't a person or valuable in the eyes of God, like, was Jesus Christ not the Messiah when he was in the womb? Was he not the Messiah? Was he not a person, an individual? So think about what you're saying, guys. Much of it doesn't make sense. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.